We've heard a lot about fire lately. We've heard about forest fires, wildfires out in Western Canada, but also in Atlantic Canada as well. I find it kind of ironic that how Canada has sent down to the United States, to California, when they were having their wildfires, planes and helicopters to help extinguish the fires. But all we have received in Canada from the United States is complaints about how our wildfires are bringing polluted and poor air quality to them down in the States. I find that quite an interesting, ironic turn of events. In the scriptures, oftentimes fire has been referred to God himself. That the love of God is spoken of as that fire that burns within us to cleanse people of their insecurities, to draw our hearts in unity with that fire heart of God, God's love. On the day of Pentecost, God came upon the apostles with tongues of fire, showing that the power of God had come upon the apostles to send them out to be missionaries to the Lord from the very ends of the earth, to lay down their lives, to bring the message of Jesus throughout the world. Well, today in the gospel, Jesus speaks about fire, that he would bring about fire by the proclamation of his message, that he would bring by his very message himself division, conflict, rejection, even in families. This would happen because of members following him. But Jesus said that we should be prepared for this, that by being his followers, proclaiming his message, that we should be ready to receive any rejection, any opposition that might come along the way. If we look at this gospel today about Jesus saying that he was going to bring fire and rejection and opposition into the world, we only have to look at the first reading that we have given to us in today's liturgy. In the first reading, we see the prophet Jeremiah, one of God's spokespersons to the people. He was thrown into the cistern because of his work proclaiming the message of God. He was left there to die. If we look at the New Testament, we look at all the apostles gave themselves completely to proclaim the message, and they were beaten, they were imprisoned, they were run out of town, and most of them were put to death for the sake of that proclamation. Jesus says to us today, and he reassures us or reminds us that we are to put our money where our mouths are, so to speak. As we profess our faith today, that we are to know that that faith will bring with us a cost of being misunderstood by others, a cost of being rejected, a cost of being opposed by others. But God's will is to come first in our lives, no matter what else may come as a result. A Canadian spiritual writer by the name of Father Ronald Rolheiser, an oblate priest, writes these words that may be helpful to us who fear opposition and persecution from others. Rolheiser writes, "Do you think Jesus Christ was controlled by what people thought of him or said about him? People who are truly awake don't need the drug of affirmation. How can we become free of this drug of affirmation? The fear has to be faced. We have to understand why we can't live without people's approval. How do we truly love people? We need to die to the need for people's approval. When you no longer have to defend yourself from anyone or impress anyone, that's when true love will begin." We have to remember that great commandment that God has given to us, that we're to love the Lord with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love our neighbors as ourselves. We have to realize how the truth of the gospel has made a tremendous difference, a complete world change of life for us as we have followed him, that our relationship with God has meant for us a sense of fulfillment, a sense of joy, a sense of inner peace, a sense of direction that guides our lives. If we have received so much from the gospel, it gives us a sense of purpose and meaning and direction, that we'll want to give these, we'll want to share these with our friends or loved ones, regardless of how they receive it, how they respond. Just this past Friday, the church celebrated the Assumption of Mary. And Mary shows us the greatest example of how to be a disciple of Christ. For she accepted fully the will of God. From that message of the angel that said that she had been chosen to be God's mother, the mother of God's own son, she said, "Let it be done to me according to your word." And she held fast with that, not just the day of her Annunciation, but throughout her life, that she stayed fast to following the Lord's will, letting his will be done to her. She faced a lot of opposition, a lot of criticism throughout her life. She was looked down upon because she was an unwed mother. She was called the mother of that lunatic who calls himself the Messiah. She was seen standing at the foot of the cross of her son who was being put to death for being a betrayer of Caesar, being one who blasphemed against God. But even though people were looking down upon her, possibly even spitting at her because she aligned herself with her son who was being put to death, she remained faithful regardless of the opposition. So Mary teaches us how to love God without limits. She helps us to reflect upon the quality of our relationship with God. Are our hearts truly on fire with love of the Lord that we can't contain ourselves, that we want to share this message with others? Or are we just lukewarm, that we come to church on Sunday, we put in our 1 hour of praise to God, but then the rest of the week we just kind of forget God and don't let God have a part of anything that we do during the rest of the week? God has shown us the depth of God's love for us, and we are called to identify our will with God's, so that everything that we do responds to that wonderful love that God has given to us. In my journey as a priest over these 39 years of mine, I've met a lot of people that have experienced a lot of conflict and opposition because of the fact that they're following Jesus. I've heard many parents saying they've done so much to raise their children in the faith. They've taught them to go to Mass every Sunday. They've shown them how to pray. They've lived a good living Christian witness, but yet their children are far from the faith, and God has no place in their hearts at all. I've also seen couples that are struggling with one member of the couple very much strong and very vehement in their faith, but the other partner of the couple seems to have no place for faith in their lives at all. I've also seen families who are divided, with some very strongly faith-filled and others who are opposed to that and put them down and even laugh at them because of their faith. But all of us who experience this conflict, this division, we're called to pray for those in our families who may have divisions against us and give the testimony of the lives filled with love for Christ. And because of the love that we have had from God, we know that this has made all the difference for our lives. It will show through from us a sense of joy, a sense of peace during crises, a sense of meaning during suffering, a sense of motivation, a sense of love for people that the other members of our family cannot possibly disregard, but they will truly understand that the message we say is the message that we live in our lives. And so today we are called to be examples of the prophets and Mary and the apostles, that we're willing to put our lives on the line for the sake of the message of Jesus, and together in solidarity with the Christian community that we celebrate today, that we can be unflinching in our belief and our following of Jesus, regardless of how that is received from others. And together we can set the world on fire for love of the Lord.